Use your feet, turn your feet, bring your hands back to your face.
Pull off that apron. That was just a free round.
Boxing is a sport with global appeal, but due to its individualist nature, one fighter as opposed to a team in other sports, fighters often find themselves representing their hometown in the ring. There's no shortage of places known for their boxing heritage, including South Philadelphia, Southern California, Brooklyn, New York, and more. But Long Island, New York has seen a growth of the sport in recent years. Ever since Joe DeGuardia, president of White Plains-based promotional company Star Boxing, brought his Rock and Fight series to the Paramount in Huntington in 2011, the sport's local standing has increased.
So we've been using Long Island fighters for a long time, having them come on board and get them into the shows. But in 2011, or right around 2011, we signed Chris Algieri. And we were looking for a spot to showcase Chris and build him. So we ended up coming across the Paramount. It was in Huntington, not far from where he lived. So they were pretty new over there. And we decided to give it a shot at the Paramount and, start building him there.
There have been 3 world champions from Long Island since 2011, including Algieri, Joe Smith Jr., and Jamel Herring.
So our fighters get a lot more exposure, especially Long Island fighters now can be seen on the S Network, with our events. So that'll build, and I think and hope that we'll have a lot more Long Island fighters.
With as many as 47 Long Island events since 2011, DeGuardia has created a localized path for Long Island fighters to build their resume and following. But developing fighters to be skilled enough to fight on those cards is a process of its own. Enter Joe Higgins, USA boxing coach and Freeport native, who founded the Freeport Police Activity League gym in 1993 and has been guiding fighters through the amateurs and the pros ever since.
I was a young amateur boxer, and I know what it did for me, but at the time we needed a program like this in Freeport because, there were some gang issues and, we needed a deterrent. I knew what a boxing gym can do for that situation. So I approached PAL with a dear friend of mine at the time, and they gave us the pilot program, realizing, we're going to try to train guys to fight, but at the same time, we're going to teach them discipline. And that's really what it's all about. And it morphed into this boxing gym that's had a lot of success.
Higgins accepts all: beginners, hobbyists, experienced fighters, and more. And his goal in running a boxing gym is not just to create fighters.
Well, what drives me, right, is to do the right thing. That's the first thing that drives me. It's all about community. And when you have a really good functioning boxing gym, it's all about the community. So we are well accepted here in Freeport, in this park. Look at this beautiful park. And, they give us this rent-free facility because they know what we're doing here. So for me, is there anything I could put my finger on? No, it's just about helping these kids that have nothing to do after school.
Higgins is proud of where he comes from and feels that there is, in fact, a unique Long Island identity for boxers.
Long Island has always been almost treated as the stepchild to New York City in a way. So even back in the day with the amateur fights, sometimes we felt like we weren't getting a fair shake against the New York City guys because we were the Long Island guys. But, look at the history of Long Island, man. Look at Bobby Cassidy, man. Look at Larry Stanton, man. Jerry Cooney, Buddy McGirt, all guys that I know, all dear friends that I've watched come up from their very early days. And there's other fighters out there too, man. Jake the Snake Rodriguez. These are all Long Island guys. You know what I mean? That either became Willie Wise. I think of these guys and having watched them spar round after round in the gyms and become very successful and maybe not get the same credit that they should have because of where they were from. I wear it on my chest. I wear it on my sleeve, man. You know what I mean? I want everybody to know where I'm from. I'm from Freeport, Long Island. I have that Long Island chip on my shoulder. There's no doubt about it. There's no place like it in the world. I've traveled all over the world for national and international tournaments. I've been all over this country, and I come to find there's no place like Long Island.
It's a sentiment many Long Islanders not involved with boxing can agree with, and one shared by some of Higgins' fighters.
We're definitely a little underrated with boxing. You don't see Long Island really mentioned a lot. It's mostly like city places like Brooklyn and Queens and stuff like that. Just because the population is a lot bigger. So there's definitely a lot of good fighters that come from Long Island though. maybe they just don't talk about it that much. But
I think it's that chip on our shoulder. People just count us out because usually a lot of fighters come from the city, and I guess since people don't think we're not boxers, we're really like what any other sport. They think that we can't make it as boxers, so I guess we use that as that chip is on our shoulder to show that we can be fighters here.
But it's not just at Higgins' gym where you'll hear this. Ask Alex Vargas, a Bellport native who trains more than 30 miles away at Heavy Hitters Boxing and MMA in Ronkonkoma.
Because the majority, as far as New York-wise, the city has put out the bigger names. They just have so many people and so many gyms out there that they have a lot of fighters, where out on Long Island there aren't many gyms. And you don't have as many names that are going into the Golden Gloves, are going into the pros and winning it like they are. And politically, they're stronger in the city. They have like the bigger sponsorships, the bigger backings, and things like that. So they get their names put out there more than most Long Island guys.
Vargas is a world-ranked contender in the 140-pound division, and he's also a Suffolk County police officer. Like many Long Island boxers with recent success, he had several amateur fights before making his professional debut on one of Star Boxing's cards. Many of these places with a rich boxing heritage are also known for having a unique style. In Philadelphia, there's the Philly Shell, a slick and defensive way of fighting that most people would know as Floyd Mayweather's style. Northern Mexico and Southern California are associated with forward aggression. Eastern European fighters are known for being strategic and cerebral. Long Island may not have this, but there's something else that links all Long Island fighters.
If I could tell you there's a specific style, but I can say there's a specific toughness.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they have a certain style, but they all are all tough. They all condition, they train, they work.
I think it's just like that grit we have, that resilience we have, from just always being counted out from everybody else. I think we all just use that in the ring.
anytime they find somebody from Freeport, they know we're gonna be very, very well conditioned. We're not gonna get tired, and we're very tough.
What exactly drives that toughness is up for debate.
We kind of have that chip on our shoulder. We know that we're going to fight these guys from the city with the political strength behind them and the big names behind them and the hype around them. When we come in to fight them, it's like, who are these guys kind of thing. So we have to have that toughness to be able to, kind of get our name out there and beat these guys when it comes to the scorecards or whatever it is. So I feel like we have to be tough if we want to make it in the amateur or the pro scene, because like I said, we're in the shadows. So
if you ask Larry Stanton, it originates with Long Islanders' New York City heritage. Stanton, who fought professionally in the 1970s, was born in the city but moved out to Merrick, a personal story that many Long Islanders can relate to. Stanton now helps Higgins train fighters at the Freeport PAL gym.
Just being, New York, sturdy people, sturdy guys, And it's women today, too. When I was a kid, the women weren't boxing, but there's a lot of good women fighters today, too.
But ask Higgins himself, who shares that same city-to-the-suburbs personal story, and he agrees with Alex Vargas. The toughness is a further product of Long Island's relationship with New York City.
Don't call me the stepchild of New York City. You know what I mean? Because I'll come right there and fight you and punch you right in the mouth. You know what I mean? Don't think we're a bunch of punks out here. You very rarely see the Long Island guys get any of the easy fights. They're always fighting the hard fights, you know what I mean? And sometimes you watch guys coming up and they'll get easy fights and they'll get these impressive records. They're 16-0 with 15 knockouts, but 12 of the guys they fought came to lose. You know what I mean? And it just seems like sometimes the Long Island guys don't get that break, man. For them to get on a card or get a fight, they have to fight somebody tough right out of the box. So it could be a little difficult to build up their record, so to speak. And I don't know if I 100% agree with that either, because later on you're going to have to fight somebody that can fight anyway. And then, and it'll show that you fought a lot of guys that you got easy fights against. So, yeah, that's how I look at the history of Long Island. Always had to fight the tougher guys. They never got a break, you know what I mean? And I don't think they ever wanted a break. So that's how I kind of seen it coming up. We always had to fight the tougher guys. And, and the will to do it. is what I think made Long Island special in boxing history.
Regardless of where it comes from, everyone seems to agree. Long Island fighters are tough. And it was this toughness that spurred Star Boxing to look at Long Island as a boxing location. A pioneer in this regard was Michael Corleone, who fought on many of Star Boxing's city cards. Corleone was both a boxer and a kickboxer, and shared the ring with several champions, including Yuri Foreman and Mikkel Kessler. At one point, he held a minor title himself.
Michael Corleone, when we were talking about before we came to Long Island, he used to fight on our shows in Westchester County and in other places too, in the city and things like that. And he had a great thing when he used to come into the music of The Godfather.
Corleone earned himself a reputation as a tough fight for anyone.
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, moved to Long Island when I was about, 11. But then after I graduated high school, I went to the military. I was in the Navy, so I was stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
After Corleone got out of the military, he joined his father's garment business and worked in Puerto Rico. Always in shape, Corleone picked up boxing there.
When I went to train in Puerto Rico, what happened was I had met some guys who lived in Jersey, and they were pretty impressed with me. So they said, if you can come back here to New York, we would like to manage you. Okay.
The rest is history. Corleone returned to the States and made a living as a boxer, including on DeGuardia's earlier cards.
Star Boxing, Joe DeGuardia is doing an excellent job doing just that for Long Island fighters. Well, really New York fighters. An awful lot of the Long Island fighters do fight on that card. So Joe DeGuardia is doing an excellent job.
For Corleone, that toughness that made him a pioneer for Long Island boxing is unique among fighters. Rather than coming from financial struggles, it came from a personal desire to be great.
It has to come from within. It has to come within. Like I said, I didn't grow up poor. I grew up in an upper middle class family. There was always food on our plate, so we always had whatever we needed. So for me, I see like I said, for me, I didn't need to struggle so much. My struggle came from my desire to be great, better than the average person.
When he hung up the gloves, Corleone opened KO Boxing in West Hempstead. While it's locally renowned as a fitness gym, Corleone trains real fighters as well. Enter Anibal Nieves, a New York City deputy sheriff who would have had no shortage of city gyms to train at. But he chose Corleone's Long Island gym to train for his debut, a charity fight for fellow first responders at Madison Square Garden.
Felt like I spent most of my time in Long Island, so I figured let me find a gym out on Long Island. So I went on Google Maps, typed in boxing gym, KO Boxing came up. I said, hey, let me give these guys a try. Called up, they were very friendly. That's what lured me in.
Nieves won that fight. Nieves' story almost echoes the other kind of relationship Long Island has with the city. Many Long Islanders trace their roots back to there. But the very fact that he chose to train at KO speaks to Long Island's credibility as a boxing location.
Specifically, this gym, I felt like it was more family orientated. I felt like home. Kind of like when you go to the backyard and you grill, you feel at peace. That's what I felt here.
But despite a vibrant and growing scene and a steady flow of fight cards under Star, boxing on Long Island still has a long way to go. The boxers here don't have the varsity system like other athletes have. And while Star Boxing has breathed life into the local scene, its monopoly means that if boxers can't get onto a Star card, they're out of luck at home. That's why Long Island Boxing Charities exists. Founded in 2019 by Rich Tentella, it's now run by Matt Pomera and Tony Palmieri, both Long Island natives and lifelong boxing fans. It aims to provide a better bottom line for fighters, both active and retired, who may have fallen on hard times and need support.
So we try to help out the local clubs, right? So the local boxing clubs, they a lot of them are, in tough areas, and then they need help financially. So we try to supply them with equipment, and we try to like we just helped one of the Westbury fighters go to Wichita. We tried to help defray some of the expenses. Um, when one of the kids that was fighting out of Atlantic Veterans Memorial out here in Belport, one of the guys that was fighting out of there, we helped cover his costs to get him to Colorado because um like they were gonna sleep in the car. Like I was like, "Hey, guys, you can't sleep in the car." So we used like Hilton points and some cash and stuff to try to keep them going. Um, and I think, the other part of it too, and this is the part that's downplayed, is that there is an element of discipline. And don't get me wrong, because you know that our other mission again is helping fighters that are struggling, and that's a lot of them. And this is a very, very brutal sport. And I don't think any sport has done a worse job in helping its combatants and helping its participants later in life. Like even the NFL, after they were done denying about the head trauma, finally like came with it and started to help. Boxing still doesn't do it.
In addition to being a lifelong fan, Palmera is also a freelance writer whose work has appeared in the Ring magazine, boxing's lone legacy publication. He's watched the scene evolve through the years, and it's become big enough to warrant that level of advocacy for Long Island fighters.
The other thing that drives me absolutely nuts is like, well, there's a million other things these kids can do. They don't need to do boxing. I said, but some kids, this is all they can do. So, why wouldn't you give them the opportunity if they can do it, especially if they're doing it to be safe? So we do try to help the local clubs, whether it be equipment or some money just to help them get to the next level.
His counterpart, Tony Palmieri, was part of that growth firsthand, as he served as a vice president at Star Boxing and oversaw several of the Rock and Fights events, giving him a unique view on what fighters need from an advocacy standpoint.
That series allows a home for fighters that wouldn't have an opportunity elsewhere or otherwise on Long Island. So, guys, like I said, Alex Vargas and, I'm blanking off the top of my head, but Cletus Selden for that matter, like those type of fighters would have to be traveling elsewhere to find fights. Tons of gyms out on Long Island that have amateur fighters, like remove the pro sport from it, just amateur fighters alone that, need the support, need the ability to, have somebody helping them to get the shine, put them in the right places and show them where they can go to basically take the next steps in their career.
But it's more than just material support. Boxing is a fractured sport with what some would say far too many sanctioning organizations, promoters, and titles. And there's no unions or retirement plans for the fighters. Long Island Boxing Charities also hopes to guide fighters into making good choices in this regard.
Knowledge is power, and I think that's the first step is having a place, and this is something Matt and I have discussed implementing going forwards, creating basically like a curriculum almost for fighters, right? What does a contract look like? What makes a good manager and not makes a good manager? What makes a good promoter and not a good promoter? These are all areas in which I think many fighters don't ever discuss, and then all of a sudden they're in the whim of a negotiation or trying to sign somewhere or take a fight, and these are things that become overwhelming like right out of the gate. You know what I mean? So similar to like a college athlete in school who has the agent who who teaches them a little bit about what the contract is supposed to be, or they have the manager who does that and stuff. A lot of fighters really just have their coach, and that's about it.
As for where they hope the Long Island boxing scene is in a few years,
what we need to do is we need to help the fighters get healthcare after their careers are over. We have to help them, we have to help them with healthcare after their career. Some people need counseling, being honest, and then some people also need some assistance. If the promoters and the state, commission and the fighters could just put everybody at a table and say, how do we solve this problem? I think it could be solved.
On Long Island, Michael Malazchek reporting.
Mind.